What's up, guys? Welcome back to Clutch City Cast. Today, I have a good friend of mine and professional player for the Colorado Rockies, Nick Kennedy. If you want to introduce yourself real quick, we had technical difficulties earlier, but we're going to start new right here.
I will introduce myself again, Cameron. I am Nick Kennedy. I'm a pitcher in the Rockies org. I've been in the organization since 2017. I got drafted out of the University of Texas, where I was at for the 2016 and 2017 seasons. Before that, I played high school ball my senior year in Tampa, Florida. But before that, I played in College Station for 3 years of high school ball. So kind of been bouncing around, trying to work our way up,
And so you were a multi-sport athlete in high school. You were telling me earlier that you enjoyed football more than baseball. You ran track. You played everything under the sun. And today I really want to talk kind of like player development and how you ended up being the athlete you are today. What you hear different things, like coaches say that you need to be baseball specific and start working out at a young age and training for that. You hear guys say they want guys that play as many sports as possible. Where do you fall in that line, and how do you think those other sports helped you?
Yeah, super tough, dude. I think you could probably make a decent case for both. I'm also very, very wary of any kind of blatant statements. Like we talked about, and I think you said a minute ago, like, dude, there are so many things that go into the pitching delivery. There are so many things that go into each guy's mental makeup, the way his body works, the way he moves, that it's so hard to say, hey, everybody should be doing this or everybody should be doing that. Like, you really can't even say that. I would lean towards, being an athlete, play multiple sports growing up. When you get to the point where you need to specialize, and I think that's at a different point for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's a kid that isn't a great athlete, isn't very good at the other sports, has a good arm. He's blessed. Maybe he's small, he's undersized. It doesn't make sense for him to keep playing football or for him to keep playing basketball. Maybe he stays in track just to be well-conditioned, to learn how to run, to be explosive. And maybe he specializes a little earlier versus a guy who maybe is a great athlete and he's big and he's fast and he's athletic and he is a good football player, and it would serve him to play legitimate football. And then, of course, there's a line, like I said, specialize when you have to specialize. For me, I was lucky enough, my dad was a football coach, and so we were around football a lot, and we at a pretty young age, I think, started running and jumping and doing athletic movements, and watching football players move, I think, went a long way. And I did play, I guess the major sports growing up, but then by the end of my sophomore year, I was able to realize, hey, I'm not going to go play at UT or at Alabama or at A&M as a football player, and I'm not going to run track there. Or play basketball. I'm not blessed in that way, I knew that it was going to be baseball, and so it made sense for me at that time to say, all right, now I can specialize. I felt like I had an athletic base. I need to now chase what I think is going to take me the furthest, And I think that might happen a couple years earlier for the next guy. It might not happen through high school. It might not happen through college for the next guy. I think it's such an individualized thing, but I would lean, for kids to absolutely play as many sports as they can or want to or feel like they're good enough to compete in,
Mm-hmm. No, and I agree. And so the way I met you was actually through working out at this facility that we work out at, and that's why training's kind of so personalized to me, is that I came from this 4A school where it was, you lifted like you played football no matter what sport you played. It was bench press on Mondays, squats on Tuesdays, and power cleans as heavy as you can on Fridays. And I really didn't even understand half of the stuff that we learned working out at the dojo, like doing dead bugs, or I remember the one that confused me so much was the lateral press and rotating. I'm like, what are we doing? And so did you kind of have that going into UT and pro ball, like just your training went different and stuff you didn't understand, and that you knew that you had to step it up, baseball specifically?
Yeah, it's interesting. Coming from my background where my dad was a strength and conditioning coach for football, like I said a minute ago, we did a lot of football, quote-unquote, football workouts growing up and really all through high school. I was careful on my upper body, just because I was a pitcher. So there were things that I didn't do that maybe my brother would have done or he would have had somebody else do. But we were very heavy again, quote unquote football workouts. You know what I mean? Generally,
Mm-hmm.
we were lifting heavy, we were sprinting, jumping, running. And it's been a process for me, and it's still ongoing, as I think it probably will be until the day that we die. I have seen now the value of, I want to say, quote unquote, baseball specific workouts. You know, the stuff that's maybe more movement based, or paying more attention to movements or actions that your body might use on a baseball field. There's absolutely value there, and so I think my natural tendency is to kind of go football, hard, heavy, fast.
Mm-hmm.
I've had to kind of pare that back a little bit and say, okay, hey, yeah, you need to be strong, but you also need to be able to do these things. You need to be able to move in this way, or hit me to be able to do this. It's been kind of a process for me, and it's still, like I said, it's still ongoing. I absolutely think there's value in the baseball things.
Mm-hmm.
I think, in my eyes, what gets overlooked a lot is the value of having a strong strength base, of having a really strong foundation. You know, and I don't even necessarily mean your legs. I'm just saying overall conditioning, strength needs to be there. And I think that's what a lot of people miss, you know.
So sorry for the technical difficulties. He was talking about having a good base strength. If you want to kind of pick back up on that and continue with the conversation.
Yeah, I think in my instance, I was lucky enough to have that good strength base because that was kind of what our dad had us do when we were kids, both my brothers and I. And my little brother, I hesitate to say this. I hope he doesn't ever hear this, but he's stronger than me. Like, his legs are stronger than mine. And my older brother's really strong too. And we did build that base. And since then, I've been able to kind of, you know, make sure my mobility is where it needs to be. The surprising thing is, you know, I didn't do a lot of the baseball specific stuff for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think people would anticipate that I was pretty locked up. But, you know, knock on wood, hip mobility wise, I've been in a good spot without having to really hammer it. And because of that, I think you can do those lifts without, you know, everybody's fear of being tight and not being able to move. I think that it takes a diet of both. It takes the strength base. It takes supplementing it with some of the movement based stuff, some more baseball specific type stuff for sure. But I think, you know, you think about kids, or you think about, like you said about yourself, you came in, you were out of shape. Dude, you could do mobility for days. What you need is to get in shape, get strong, be able to move fast again, you know? And like you said, maybe, who knows? There's no way to know what percentage of your velo coming back up came from, you know, hammering maybe some of the movement stuff you're doing. I'm sure that has something to do with it. I would put a lot of money on the fact that it came from you getting in shape, getting stronger, working out again. Like, I just think the base, the strength base is the big thing. That's the 90%. And then we want to get that last 10%. Yeah, let's hammer the other stuff. But I think a lot of people want to skip over the 90% to get that 10%. When, like, it's going to be hard to get there if you skip the big base. You know what I'm saying? That's just my view. And again, dude, there's a million different takes on it. That's just what I feel like I've observed and learned as I've moved forward.
And so, as you've seen in pro ball, baseball, like basketball, yeah, you got to be 6'3" to 7'2". You've got to have this high of a vert. You have to be able to do this to succeed. Baseball is so much different. Like, you have guys at RIP, but you have Ventura, who probably never touched a weight, and he was about 5'9" on a good day, throwing 102 miles per hour. And then you've got guys like Roger Clemens, who's 6'4", 250 of just muscle, throwing 102 miles per hour. And that's where I have the hard time thinking, is like, what's the correct way? What's the wrong way? And you got to just find what works for your body and kind of go with that. It's just, baseball's so weird when it comes to that.
Yeah, it makes it so hard, dude, because like you said, you can find, if you looked hard enough, you could find an example of somebody who had a lot of success in the big leagues that did anything, dude. This guy swears by long toss. This guy swears by never doing long toss. This guy swears by squatting heavy. This guy never lifted. Like, dude, that's what makes it so hard, like you said, to pick through this stuff. Like, I have a hard time, anybody, like I said earlier, who speaks in absolutes and says, baseball players need to be doing this, or baseball players don't need to be doing that. Dude, I've seen too many guys that were really good that were doing the wrong thing
Mm-hmm.
or doing nothing at all. And I've seen guys that weren't very good or couldn't stay healthy or couldn't figure out their mechanics that were trying to cross all the T's and dot all the I's,
Mm-hmm.
But that is also one of the beautiful things about baseball, the thing that, dude, guys like you and me, we have an opportunity, even though we're 6 foot, we're relatively strong, but we're not, there are people stronger than us.
Mm-hmm.
There's people more explosive than us, but we got an opportunity because if we get our mechanics right, get everything to line up together, then our stuff could be good enough for us to keep moving, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what's the blessing about it,
And now I'll get sentimental on this. That's one thing that I've always looked up
It's
to you.
sentimental, baby.
I remember walking into the thing and I was like, one of the first thing I was like, Nick's about to say hey to me. Like, this is so cool coming from a 4A, never having a pro guy. And it was just like, what you did at the dojo didn't go unnoticed. Like, it still gets talked by me, Zach, and Austin about like, yeah, Nick was by far the nicest guy there. He welcomed us in. And then seeing that we had a very similar build. And so my height has always been something that I've been self-conscious about. And I've kind of been like, man, if I'm working all this, I'm throwing as hard as I'm throwing, I'm trying to do this, but is my height ever going to stop me? Like, am I going to have the same stuff as a 6'3" guy, and they're just going to choose the 6'3" guy because he's 6'3"? But seeing you work out and you bust your tail and do all the things you did, and now you're up to AAA last year, I'm like, yeah, this is actually something I can do. Now, of course, you're a lefty and throw a little harder than me, but that's why I've always gravitated towards you and talking to you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you saying that. And that's, dude, I'm not a physical freak. I'm 6 feet tall. I've always been relatively strong. I've always been relatively athletic, but not crazy. I've got an arm that works. Luckily a lot of things have aligned for me to be able to be good enough to keep taking the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about baseball is, like you said, dude, maybe tomorrow, or I know you got a tweaked oblique right now, but maybe next time you go throw and you're working on some mechanical thing and it clicks, and then all of a sudden you throw 2 miles an hour harder, or your slider becomes great, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, it takes us putting the things together one more tick to take us to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And all we're trying to do is take the next step forward to hopefully get the opportunity to do the next thing. If you go look at my college numbers, especially my freshman year, my minor league numbers, dude, I have absolutely not cruised. I've luckily, I think, shown enough good stuff and shown enough promise to where they say, yeah, let's give this guy another shot. Let's keep him moving.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we're trying to do. Unless you're the freak talent, which there are those, and yeah, I'm never going to throw a ball 103 miles an hour or do some of the things that guys do. But guys like us can be good enough to keep taking the next step, which is so cool because there's really no other major sport that's the case,
Mm-hmm. No, I completely agree with that.
That's the way I look at it.
And man, that's also the frustrating part though, is that like football you can always get stronger. Like, you're not going to get taller and getting faster, but you can always get stronger. You can always work on your hands. Baseball, I swear, getting from 91 to 93 is like a 2-year process. Or it can happen overnight. Like, you do not know what it's going to take to go from 88 to 90. And some guys can jump 7. Some guys will lose 3 in the off season. Some guys, and it's just, it's so hard. And that's why I enjoy just taking in all the information I can about baseball training, because no one has the right answer. No one. You can go drive line, you can go top velocity, you can go tread. Yeah, each one of those has a guy that throws 100, but each one of those also has a guy that throws 92 and has been stuck at 92 for the past 3 years. Like, it's so frustrating. And
it is, dude. And there's truly no secret sauce. Like, you look around at all these different programs, and luckily I've been able to try a lot of them and try a lot of the ones that people are that are gaining a lot of steam. And it's like, yeah, they got some really smart people that know a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people that are a lot smarter than I am when it comes to strength and conditioning or when it comes to pitching mechanics. It goes deep, or pitch design. But there's really no secret sauce. Like, I think you educate yourself as much as you can to where you can give your best guess as far as what you need to do next. And that sounds so vague, but we're making an educated guess. A pitching mechanics guy is, for the most part, making an educated guess. A strength and conditioning guy is. it's just so hard to pin down. And like you said, you could be 91 today and 93 tomorrow, or 91 today and 93 in 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
But again, in football, like you and I don't even get a chance.
Mm-hmm.
In baseball, that's why so many guys, you see guys hang on, and you see you're every day tinkering with stuff, trying to figure something out, because it can happen like that. And if you're 93 tomorrow and you're 93 all year, then it's a different deal. Then you're thinking, okay, what's next? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we really do all have an opportunity. And that's what, again, I mean, this is kind of getting sentimental, but for me, I look at my career, and now I'm 26 years old, and I've been in the minor league since 2017. And the minor league lifestyle gets old, brother. Nobody wants to be in the minor leagues for that long. But I'm like, dude, I've got a chance. I've got an opportunity. I've been given a certain amount of talent. So now I have to kind of maximize this. And I know that, I'm not the freak talent. I'm not the guy that shot up to the major league. But I think I'm good enough if I put things together and things work out to be able to pitch in the big league. Yeah, I think I'm good enough. And you think you're good enough, if you figure this next thing out, or you have something click, you throw a little harder, you think you can go play pro ball for sure, because you can. It's just you get the things, you get everything kind of lined up, then yeah, you can take that next step. And as long as that next step's there, then we kind of got to keep digging,
Mm-hmm. And let's not pretend like me and you are on the same level. My next step is playing baseball after college. You're one step away from being in the major leagues. Like, we haven't brought that up
but
yet in
it's
the
all
podcast.
the same thing, bro. It's all the same thing. Like, the guy who's trying to make his JV team, the guy who's trying to make his varsity team, like, my buddies and I talk about, like, hard work versus talent all the time. And there's a threshold. And we've all got a certain amount of natural talent, of course. And then, like, kind of the environment we grew up in, the stuff we did when we were young, that matters too. But, like, we get to a certain age, and we've got a certain percentage of talent, we'll call it. That's just natural. And from then on, we're trying to maximize it. And some guys, maximizing it is making the varsity team. Some of them, it's making the varsity or the JV team. Some of them, it's making it to the major leagues, because we all got a different level of natural talent. But like we're saying, the thing about baseball is there's a wide talent gap of guys that make it to the big leagues, or guys that play college baseball. Because it's a skill, and you learn the skill, or you get the right thing to click, like we've said, and the talent gap gets shrunk. Like, I was given enough talent, luckily, to where, like, I didn't really, making the varsity team wasn't a sweat. Getting to college wasn't really a sweat. Pitching in college was, and from then on, it's been a grind. There are guys who don't really have to grind really until they get to the big leagues, because they're that good. It's just, we all kind of hit that point at a different time, of course, but we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to do the same thing,
And so, kind of start moving into your professional career. How much control do you have of what you can do, and how much control do the Rockies have of, like, your throwing programs, and how much you work out and what you eat, what weight you have to come into spring training with?
Yeah, that kind of changes as you move. So your first year, rookie ball, they pretty much take control of everything, which is probably good, because you got guys that have been in college for 5 years. You got guys that are straight out of high school. And so I know the Rockies did it this way. I can't speak to other orgs, but from what I've heard, it's similar. They kind of take control of all your working out. You got to follow their program to a T. They give you a scripted throwing program, arm care. We want you to do these weighted balls. We want you to do these drills. It's very scripted. As you move, and at this point in my career, in AAA, they're very much they're a lot more laid back. Yeah, so once you get to AAA, you've got a little bit more control of what you want to do. And I think that's probably a good system. They got young guys or guys who are still figuring out pro ball, because it is kind of a different toll on your body. You play every day. And so they kind of try to teach you how to deal with that. And then, now in AAA, there are some guys that have been playing professional baseball for 14 years, and they have a pretty good idea of what they need to do with their body. And so they kind of let you have a little bit more freedom, And I know in the big leagues, they've got all kinds of freedom. So it kind of works that way. As you move, they let you kind of adapt the program to what you need.
Mhm. And so, kind of just as much as physical is a part of it. And the further along you go, you understand how how the mental side of things take over, and how you just have to be mentally tough. Like some guys have it, some guys don't. Um, were you always that guy in the head, or is that something you had to work on? And just talk about the mentality behind being a pitcher in the big leagues.
Yeah, I don't know much about being a pitcher in the big leagues, but
No,
I can
my
tell you
fault.
about being a pitcher in the minor
I'll
league.
take that.
Not yet, not yet. Um, yeah, I think it's developed. I think it's always developing. I think um, mentally, I've always been a hard worker. I've always been down to grind, and it's always kind of felt like a deep thing to me. Like if
Mm,
I don't have success, I do not want it to be because I didn't work hard enough. I didn't do enough.
mm,
Um, and I think that served me well for a long time. As I've gotten a little older, I've had to learn how to almost steer away from that a little bit. Like, dude, I have a bad outing, I get lit up, then I'm like, dude, I got to go work out, I got to do something.
mm,
When like maybe that's not the best thing for my body.
mm,
Maybe it's best for me to just go home, go to sleep, and we'll regroup tomorrow. Um, I think mentally, I do think it can be taught. I think it can be developed. Um, I'm very thankful that I was that way early. That I was willing to grind. And as I've gotten into pro ball, yeah, you have to be able to take some punches on the chin. And sometimes it takes pouring on more steam and doing more. And sometimes it takes doing less and saying, you know what, dude, don't worry about it.
mm.
Like there was one outing, we're back in there tomorrow.